Thank you for tuning into the Three Circles Living podcast, where you can learn how to improve your life. And it doesn't matter if you want to accelerate your career, you want to have better relationships, you want to be healthier, want to find fulfillment and purpose, this is the podcast for you. And we appreciate it if you shared it and also leave a comment with what you found most valuable. So today we're going to continue to talk about calling, career, what's the difference? Why can work fuel you? What makes it fuel your life and not drain your life and not burn you out? A big question,
Mhm.
definitely for me. But I know I'm guilty of this, and I'm going to start with this so you can think about it too. That I was chasing after career, after title, after the next paycheck, and I never felt really fulfilled. I was running into burnout, one burnout after the other. When I recouped, there was the next one because I was chasing another title, and I felt really disconnected. Like, so for me, this is like a very important episode because the three circles living and what we're talking about changed everything for me. And I want to make sure that everybody out there who is dealing with the same things has an opportunity to also take advantage of this, what we have here. So we're going to talk about it and how you can look at your work and make it, make, make it, geez, make it serve your life and not consume your life, not drain your life, and how to really find that sweet spot for you and align everything between your strength, your passion, and your purpose and finding that.
Hey,
Might not get to all of that today.
I got to ask you something before you go
Yes,
any further. So, the role you're in now,
yes,
you're pretty fulfilled in this role now,
yes,
right?
yes,
Your prior role, not, definitely not, right? So you're fulfilled in this role now. Now your bigger challenge is making sure you don't have burnout because when you're involved in something which we're not really going to talk about this part as much today, but when you are in alignment and you are involved in pursuing something that really does fill your bucket, you have to be conscious of burnout because you will overwork because you love doing it. And so
yeah,
then you have to be purposeful with boundaries on that. So that's a separate topic and maybe one we should do in a future episode.
love it, 100%. Because yeah, it's very easy to just keep going
Yeah.
without realizing it. And it's so much harder, actually. I talked with a couple ladies yesterday about that too, that women especially, I feel like tend to just keep going because we're like, we need to. That's what is expected of us. I did quotate air quotation marks here, for anyone listening, that we feel guilty when we slow down. But
Ooh, yeah.
let's not get into that because we have another topic
That's a
that
whole
we'll get
rabbit
back
hole.
to.
That's a whole three circles. I
Yes.
talk specifically about that in Three Circles Living, right? I mean, that's one of the challenges for women for self-care,
Yeah.
because they're so busy taking care of everybody else that they neglect themselves and don't understand. They don't realize they're doing it because that's the conditioning. But from a if you're objective and you pulled yourself out and looked in, you're like, well, how are you going to take care of anybody else if you don't take care of yourself? It's not sustainable. Bottom line,
Exactly.
it's not sustainable. Don't do it. I mean, really,
Yes.
in
Yeah.
general.
And that, I mean, it kind of feeds into what we're talking about today too, is like if you're not happy, if you're not fulfilled in what you do, it's gonna drain you even more. It doesn't matter. And I want you to think about that as we start this off. Like ask yourself this question. Have you ever reached a milestone and a title, a job, or something else in your career, and you achieved it and you felt nothing? Like it wasn't that big thing, those confetti and whatever, what is it called? Oh my gosh.
Confetti's enough. I mean, that's a good word picture right
Fi- Fireworks, that's what I
there.
wanted to think of. Like, but you felt nothing, right? Just answer that for yourself because that will give you some really good insights.
Well, you might have felt good in the moment of the achievement, right? Because normally you do, but it doesn't last, right? The
Yeah.
achievement doesn't last. The actual fulfillment part has to be coming in the process of the work. It has to be coming in
Mm.
the thing because achieving something won't make you feel fulfilled. It'll actually often make you feel lost because now you're like, okay, I did that. Now what? Because
Yeah.
because right, you climb the top of a mountain and then you enjoy the view for a minute and they're like, oh crap, I got to go down this thing. Right? That's the that's the nature of it.
Yes. I think that is what I was chasing a lot of the times was that external validation and not really understanding my alignment. And your question earlier, like when I pointing out like how I'm now fulfilled and I wasn't, I think the biggest difference, there are two things is I really understand my values now and how it needs to fit into the work I do. And I also need to be fulfilled that I know what my purpose is, that I see some results that go beyond me, beyond what I'm achieving, right? For me, it's like I need to see other people advance and get better in whatever shape or form that is. So
Well,
just
you
as a
dropped a good word there with values, right? I mean, values are key, and that's an area that at least with the people that I've worked with in my life, which has been many, many thousands, they're not even aware that that's an area that's important to uncover. They're operating on some sense of values, but they're not clearly defined, and it ends up skewing your priorities because
yeah,
your values aren't clarified. And for fulfilling work, it's got to be in your value zone, but it's also got to be in your strength zone. It's got to be using what lights you up as opposed to, and that doesn't mean every part of it, right? So Confucius, they've attributed this to many people, but Confucius is the primary one. Do something you love and you'll never have to work a day in your life, right? That sounds nice, and I understand the vibration of that, but the reality is that's not true because even things you love are going to have parts of them you don't. That's just the reality of it. I mean, there's nothing that you just hummingbirds and balloons and lovely stuff all day long. That's not a thing, right? That doesn't exist. so you do want to be in an area where how you more know it is how fast does time move when you're doing it. Like if you're
mm,
doing stuff you love, like an hour can go by in a heartbeat. It's just where did that hour go? Because you're immersed, right? You're not thinking about what you'd rather be doing than this, which is a big clue, right? Is
yeah,
you're present because it's in your zone.
yes. Yes, it's important that you know you like what you do. You're not gonna like or love every part of it
No.
because some things you have to develop probably new skills that you don't have, and that's scary, and that deters some people. Like, why should I do that? Or that is too much. Like, I'm not gonna, that comes back to the other episodes that we talked about, like your values, your confidence, your up-leveling of skills, all of that goes into that and just how you think about yourself too. Um, but work, I said that earlier, work should really serve your life, and that to your point too, and not consume it. And I've made the mistake before that, I was on that career track and that career path, and I wanted to achieve a certain title because I think that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And without looking at what my values are, understanding what my passion is, what my purpose is, all of that. And I really lost who I was. And I just identified as my work. That is who I am. So, and I know that that became also the driver then for running into burnouts because I didn't have anything else. I felt like, what would you say is like, how can you get out of that cycle of like just identifying with your work and really finding that work that serves you more?
So, well, how to get out of that cycle? I think you can't even think about being in that cycle. You have to recognize in general that work is a piece of your life, right? I
Hmm.
mean, it's essentially about 20 to 25% of your life is your work, if you really broke it down to actual time spent. And one of the big challenges with the whole identifying with what you do kind of thing, that being your identity, is that that's going to really set you up for a big fall later in life because you're not going to be a high performer in any field for a long time. You're not. That's just the way it works. It's just,
Yeah.
and you can just look at it, right? And if your whole life is wrapped up in that identity, you're at some point going to feel completely lost and useless. So
Right.
you have to again, you got to go back to the three circles part. First, you're a human being. Identify with that, right? And it's more important to identify with being a spouse or a parent than it is to identify with being a vice president of something. You have to become comfortable in being you, and then you are in everything you do. So when someone says, "So what do you do?" It's like, how would you like me to answer that? Are you asking me what my job is? Because someone's natural response is going to be, "Oh, I'm an accountant." Like that has
Mhm.
never been my response. I remember when this was heck almost not quite 25 years ago when I did my MBA curriculum, and we had to go around the room and introduce ourselves. And everybody stood up and said, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I'm a blank." And I stood up and I'm like, "So I'm a husband and to an amazing lady, and I'm a father of a couple of children, and I'm involved in this and this and this in my community, and I do these kinds of things from a service perspective in my workplace." And and I gave like a whole, I like gave them like all these different things, and everybody's kind of looking at them like, "Sorry,
Mhm.
I am not my work, and nor will I ever be." And so you have to just get clear that that is unhealthy to identify as what you do, because you will not do that forever. And it's just not a good recipe.
And it's so powerful, like the words I am, and then what you put after that
Hmm.
mean a lot. So, like you said, be careful and think about like what you want to put because that's has such a big impact on who you are and how you go about things. And also, like to your point, I saw that growing up, like people that went to work, like in my family or the acquaintances or relatives, and then they retired, and I was like, it was like day and night difference, and I didn't know what to do anymore.
Yeah,
Like it was very scary to look at that.
it's pretty well, I mean, statistically, there is a pretty massive decline right after retirement. And
Yes.
some people could go, "Oh, isn't that going to be natural because of the age?" No, it doesn't have to be natural. It's not supposed to be natural, right? Really, it's you're supposed to transition and evolve to
Mhm.
what's next for you as a human who has grown and developed and now has Cicero does a great job of laying this out. And
Mhm.
Cicero's words were, "In your older years, service is where you should be. Sharing your wisdom in the areas that you have it is where you should be. And counseling and teaching and mentoring those who are coming up is where you should be." And that is absolutely true. Finishing, and that's the word I'll use, finishing your span in a particular vocation should be the platform of the next thing. It shouldn't, because we're not meant to, as I've said before, lay around under a tree and sip pina coladas all day. That's a great way to go crazy. That's just another version
Mhm.
of prison for a human being. It's not, yeah, it's fine for a few days, but it's not a life.
Oh, that is so powerful. Prison. Yes.
So
When
I
I,
got I got a thing to throw out just because we're
yeah.
on this topic and it's really important for people to think about this. And I don't know that they do. And so it's really a two-part thing. One is, would you still do the work that you do
Mm,
if you did not need the money? That is a first question to answer. And if the answer is definitely not, then literally from this moment forward, the best thing you can do is is finding a way to work your way out of it, because it's not going to be a positive thing for you. You're going to be dealing with stress in your system just from spending your days doing something that doesn't light you up. And
mm,
then the second one to consider is, what would you be doing if money was no issue? And there's a massive basket of things that can apply to in how you can invest yourself. And you take those two questions seriously, they can change your entire life if you act on them.
yes, they're so powerful. And also, like to that first question, um, ask yourself if you were somewhere else, if what is like the ideal place. Take that into consideration too, like the environment of where you do that work, because that makes a big difference too.
Yeah, definitely.
So I know we talked about, strength. It's important to understand your strength and where your passions are, as like this guide for you to to understand career versus calling, right? Um, because it makes everything so much easier. It gets you closer to that. It you love what you do, and then it doesn't feel like work anymore. Um, so it cannot just be passion, right? It cannot just be that. You have to actually also think about, well, the strength and the service that you want to provide, what you want to do. So where how what's the best way? Like what would you say is like that? How do people get to that sweet spot? Yes, they have to do the exercise. But what would be like your game plan, or if you advise someone, what would you say to do?
Well, I mean, the first thing to do is the first two circles.
Mm.
It is to invest in yourself so that you develop yourself enough
Yeah.
to have such a heightened sense of self-awareness, which you can't do without physical well-being, because it just, you won't have the mental capacity to do it.
You
Um,
don't have the energy.
Yes,
Like you have
exactly.
to have
And
that
energy
energy.
is your currency. And so if you don't have the physical energy, you're certainly not going to have the mental energy, the emotional energy to sit and reflect and focus and explore and discover all the things about you, and then see how that translates, right? It's a
Mhm.
process. I don't think most people wake up in the morning and go, I know my purpose. No, you don't. I mean, we're not, and we're certainly not conditioned or cultured for that to be the case, right? We are made to be employable from a systemic standpoint. We're not made to explore our gifts. And I've gone down that rabbit hole in prior episodes, so we don't need to go there. But you have to recognize that it's a process of discovery, and you have to follow threads in life. You can't be afraid to take steps and do things that are unknown to you, because this lives in the unknown. This doesn't live in what you know. It's not in your comfort zone. Your comfort zone purpose doesn't live in your comfort zone. Right? Only what you already know lives in your comfort zone. And so, it's interesting that how I refer to a calling versus a career, particularly a career where you're not fully in, right?
Mm.
That's not aligned. When you discover purpose, then you're in a place where you don't have to do it. And often you don't want to do it,
Mm.
because by nature, right? That's the way it is to be a human. You wake up in the morning, I don't care what it is that's in front of you that day. Some days you don't feel like doing it, whatever it is. But if it's a calling and it's purpose, you're compelled to do it. So it doesn't matter if you want to do it, right? You already don't have to do it. See that you follow the three circles path, and that is the whole boat of getting to the back end of it. It ends up being health, relationship, purpose, because career, you've taken care of that money, career, place, right? But again, this is going to tend to be a little bit later in life, right? It's not going to happen early, as a general rule. But once you get to that place, that is the ultimate sweet spot, right? Because you're operating completely in choice, but you're also operating completely based on what's compelled in your heart, because that is what you're supposed to be doing. It's almost like it's not an option for me. Like for me, it's not an option for me to go do my best to serve in the hours I allot in a day. I don't have to do it, right? I don't need to do it. And there's a lot of days I don't want to do it, but I do it because I'm compelled to do it, right? I wouldn't want to live with myself if I didn't do it, because then I'd have to deal with shame and guilt and regret and all those things that are just ugly for your soul. They're soul sucking.
Yes. Yes to all of that. I don't want to add anything to it, but I want to give you an example because I, before I did the three circles, I was very introverted, did not want to be on camera, didn't want to speak in front of other people. Actually, when I spoke, usually people had to ask, like, can you speak up? Because we don't understand a thing you're saying, right? Well, it's because I didn't do the first two circles, right? Especially the first one. And now, yes, I have a purpose in my career, and I generally love what I do. But I have days where I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Like I'm done. I'm in a lot of meetings all day long, and I'm like, "Oh, another meeting. Just can't do it, right? But because I did the work beforehand, I don't care how I feel. My body has the reflexes, like the muscles that I just show up.
There it is. There it is, right? And that is the result. That's the resiliency, right? That's the product of the development taking you through, right? It's also, it's also attributed a little bit to the gratitude piece, right? You get to, even if you don't want to and you don't need to, you get to.
Yeah.
And the fact that you get to and you can, maybe on that day, you're not coming into it feeling like you're at 100%. But you know what? Once you're in the middle of it, everything, all systems are on. And so nobody else knows that you didn't feel 100% coming in, because you're showing up to them
Yeah.
like you're all in, like everything's good. And that is just, yeah, again, it's really difficult without doing the work for someone to grasp that, right? Because you just can't decide, I'm going to go to that point in the growth curve and start there. You don't get that, right? You don't get to just put the second story on a house if you haven't put the foundation and the first story on. You can't just, oh, that's just a roof laying on the ground. That's not really a good idea, right? So it's the same kind of thing, right? Life is a process, right? That's a simple principle. Everything has a process. Your development has a process, your health has a process, your success in your career has a process, and you're working your way to calling and purpose is a process that comes from all of that. And it's actually simple when you look at it that way. But
Yeah.
again, we live in an instant gratification society, and nobody wants to wait. They want what they want now. And it takes some people a little while to recognize, oh, well, that's only made me stay stuck for a million years. Because then I keep trying to shortcut something you can't shortcut. You can't shortcut maturation. It's not shortcuttable. You just have to go through all the stages.
Yeah. Otherwise, everybody would do it.
Yes. Yeah. If anything instant worked, all problems would be solved.
Yes.
There would be no problems.
That's not the case. And I will say real quick before we end, purpose seems like a big word and really daunting.
Yeah.
And like Todd said, it's not like you wake up one day and you just know it, like without doing some work, right? Take it one step at a time. Like go through the different exercises that we talked about in this episode, like look at your strengths, find those. What are some things that you do that you really enjoy doing? Like take note of these things. And then, as always, a little homework for you, everyone. Think about like right now in your work, in your career, whatever you're doing professionally, what is fueling you and what is draining you, and write that down, right? And think about it and see once you have that, take a few days, take a week, take a month to do it, right? Because not every day is the same. And then really understand where the alignments are and where you can like put it together. And the puzzle pieces, I'm talking German, it's not a good idea.
The
The puzzle
puzzle
pieces,
pieces.
yes, they're gonna come together. You can connect the dots. You just have to do a little bit of work to get there.
That's a great finish there, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
See you next time.